Hey everyone, Carl with Littleroot Lessons bringing you a deep dive into the world of Pokemon featuring Perish Trap. So this one's going to be a little bit of a longer episode because there's a lot of nuances and a lot of things that go into Perish Trap specifically. It is a very hard strategy to play and it is definitely not recommended for newer players. This kind of goes against what I had planned for the series, but I think it's better that newer players get introduced to it this way rather than running into it on ladder and getting frustrated. So if you like what you see, or if you want to see more about all these archetypes and things like that, hit that like button, ring the bell for notifications for when new videos go live, subscribe, leave a comment down below which you want to see me cover next time. We're going to be talking pretty fast and pretty quick because there's a lot to cover, and I'd like to get this in under 15 minutes or less if I can, just for algorithm purposes. Make sure if you're interested in joining our LRQ that's coming up on Saturday that you sign up today. You are very quickly running out of time. Signups end at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, so you have a little bit under 24 hours to get signed up. Anywho, let's get started with this Perish Trap. So Perish Trap, the idea is it is essentially a defensive strategy where you trap your opponent's Pokemon and use the move Perish Song to force them to faint. There's a lot of Pokemon that get Perish Song, and not so many Pokemon that actually can trap Pokemon in. Pokemon that are common for these strategies, though, are Pokemon like Lapras, Gothitelle, Dugtrio, Azumarill, Primarina, Alolan Marowak, Gengar, which we'll cover a lot of those. I'll mention a bunch of other ones as we go on with this video here. There's also the kind of move setups that get a very powerful lead and then have Perish Song in the back. We mentioned this yesterday with Colossal Perish Trap. There's also leads with Cinderace or something like Regigigas, or even beat-up strategies that are very good with this. It is one of the most hard, it's probably the hardest strategy to pull off effectively and successfully a lot of the time, but it's very rewarding once you get the hang of it and know what to do and know your keys to victory and what you need to do. It's very, very rewarding. The archetype hasn't been super popular as of late. When Lapras first got introduced in Series 3, it kind of started to pick up in a lot of popularity because Lapras did a lot of the things that Perish Trap wanted to do. It gave you a Gigantamax target specifically, it set up screens with Aurora Veil, which essentially in turn makes your team bulkier, which really helps out the team that wants to play defensively with switches and Perish Song and things like that. So it ended up just meeting a lot of our criteria that the Perish Trap teams wanted to find. And having all that, even with the new Pokemon like Lapras, with the new Gigantamax form of Lapras, the learning curve was still really high. A lot of the players that are more veterans or older that are familiar with Perish Trap could actually play it in series in Sword and Shield, but it's not new player friendly, so it never really took off because Sword and Shield had a lot of newer players at the time. It's very rewarding. It's very good as being an off-meta team like idea. So if you're getting bored of the same old Venusaur, Torkoal, Trick Room stuff, Perish Trap might be something that you want to put in your wheelhouse, just so you can say that I've played this, I know how to beat it kind of situation. So instead of a whole breakdown, because there's so many Pokemon that can do this kind of stuff, we're kind of going to go over things to know about Perish Song, the way trapping works and things like that, and then we'll kind of get into building with it and kind of give you ideas on how to do that. So Perish Song is a move that forces all Pokemon to faint that hear it in 3 turns. So what happens is if your Pokemon are on the field, say all of them are active at the time, and you click Perish Song, all Pokemon will have this affliction of Perish attached to them for 4 turns. And at the end of that turn, it ticks down to 3. And then the next turn ticks down to 2, ticks down to 1, and once it hits 0, all 4 Pokemon will faint that are still afflicted by Perish Song. If all 4 Pokemon faint at the same time, the player with the Pokemon that would go last in priority or in turn order would win. So for the example here on screen, if you have the slowest Pokemon, you win. A lot of the times this is done via being just min speed or having something that's slower than everything else on the field and have Perish Song on it at the same time. Cool. Conversely, if you have Trick Room active, the fastest Pokemon technically would win, because the way the Trick Room works, it inverts speed order, not your speed. So fastest Pokemon go last, fastest Pokemon, i.e. ends up winning the game because of the way Perish Song works. If that sounded confusing, it's about to get a heck of a lot worse. There's a ton of intricacies when it comes to playing with Perish Song and Perish Trap in general. Protect and screens and switching is super important when it comes to playing with Perish Song. So if you are not good at making reads or predicting things, you're going to struggle early with Perish Song. Stalling and switching out and trying to nullify as much damage as possible is super important. One of the main strategies is once you have the lock, if you set it up on turn 1 and have your opponent locked in, on that turn 3 where your Pokemon would faint, you want to swap out and swap in fresh Pokemon. This swapping removes the Perish debuff, essentially. I wouldn't call it a debuff, but it removes the Perish affliction, and none of your Pokemon will faint, while your opponent's Pokemon are still trapped on the field because they can't switch in between moves going off. So once they've locked, because they'll have to lock in their moves for that third turn, and unless they have U-turn or some way to switch out, both of those Pokemon will faint at the end of that turn. So in order to pull off the lock, there's 2 main components. You will need a minimum of 1 Pokemon that can lock your opponents in, and then a minimum of 1 Pokemon that knows Perish Song. So Pokemon that are trappers, we'll call them trappers and setters, essentially. So trappers are Pokemon like Gothitelle, Wobbuffet, Dugtrio. Gengar essentially does the same thing. However, it gets a little bit tricky with Gengar. If you switch Gengar out, Meanlook fades away. And this kind of works the same way with other things. Shadow Tag, Arena Trap, stuff like that. Magnezone can be one because of Magnet Pull. Trying to think of other fancy ways to trap. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. But you can also achieve this lock by knocking 2 of your 4 opponents' Pokemon out and end up essentially locking them in from switching. This is where the hyper offensive lead comes into play with like Cinderace or Regigigas or Beat Up or something like that. And looking at other ways to trap here, there's permanent moves like I mentioned with Meanlook, or semi-permanent with moves like Fire Spin, Sand Tomb, Whirlpool, Infestation. Shuckle is actually a very good semi-permanent trapper because you get to click Infestation and you can tank hits forever. They're much more uncommon though in the format, and they require a little bit more planning rather than using, say, Shadow Tag or something like that. As for Perish Song users, Lapras and Azumarill are the more popular ones. Alola Marowak's an option. Primarina, I believe Jigglypuff's line gets it, I think. I'm not quite sure. But there's a bunch of Perish Song users, and usually the ones you pick determine on how you're wanting the team to play. I personally used Politoed a lot of the time because I could give Politoed Iron Ball because it didn't care about its item too much, and it would get down to 33 speed. Well, 33 is slower than Tyranitar at the time, which was a menace. So you could end up underspeeding T-Tar to get weather control and also winning Perish Wars a lot of the time. Beating Perish Trap, though, is usually fairly difficult. Since it comes with a high learning curve and it's not very common, being able to recognize that, oh, this is what my opponent is doing, needs to happen super early so you have a chance of actually being able to beat it. Recognizing that it's Perish Trap is huge. That goes a long way into beating the team overall. If you don't recognize it but have access to moves like U-Turn, Parting Shot, Volt Switch, or other moves that forces switches by you or even by your opponent. Things like Dragon Tail come to mind, being used on the Gothitelle or the trapping Pokemon in general. Those can usually get you out of the so-called lock. Also, things to note: Ghost types can't be trapped. Ghost types can always escape, even after Mean Look or Shadow Tag or things like that. Which, being able to save one Pokemon instead of losing both goes a long way into beating the strategy, because you still will have 3 Pokemon left instead of 2, which makes it harder for them to Perish Song the next time and stuff like that. The longer the game goes on for you, the better it is for you when it comes to Perish Song, because your opponent eventually runs out of protection and steam. Moves that also remove you from the active battlefield ignore Perish Song as well. Moves like Fly, Phantom Force, Dig, and Dive. These take you off the active battlefield play, so moves like Perish Song will end up missing. I'm surprised I won't get this covered. So I'm going to ramble here a little bit more about Perish Song and things like that. It's a very powerful strategy, and it's very high learning curve. I do not recommend newer players to try and just pick this up right off the bat and learn it. I would definitely go and watch some other people play with it, learn the ins and outs that way, and then try picking it up and pick up rental codes. Don't try to build this right off the bat with limited knowledge. Knowing your speed calcs is super important. Knowing who's faster, who's slower, things like that. You can learn these things by watching grassy terrain or weather damage or stuff like that, because that always goes in turn order as well. So if one of your Pokemon goes last when it comes to getting grassy terrain recovery, that means you're probably safe to Perish Song. Whereas if you end up having both your Pokemon go first, Perish Song is probably not a good idea to pull off right now, because you'll just end up losing both your Pokemon and could cost you the game. The strategy is still fairly unexplored, so there's a lot of building opportunities for it, which is really good. It's good for a kind of just like wanting to figure out and play kind of metagame, but again, not newer player friendly. Definitely learn the ins and outs first before you try and pick this team up, before you try and go off and just run over ladder with it. With that all out of the way, and that book of a PowerPoint, I'm sorry for that. I usually have more pictures than that, but there's so much information. I want to thank everyone for hanging out. Perish Trap's one of my more favorite archetypes that I don't get to play with or talk about a lot, because nobody ever wants to really see or watch it. Make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notifications for when new videos go live. Join the Discord if you want to play in the LRQ on Saturday. Again, signups are quickly running out of time. Make sure to hang out with us on Twitter. If you are interested in that, there is a giveaway going on Twitter for your entry into the LRQ to be paid by myself and Carter. We'll probably pick out one winner for each event from here on for the foreseeable future. So definitely keep an eye out on Twitter. You can find it at RL Lessons for the podcast, and the giveaway stuff's on there. Should be up near the top. That being said, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at in the world, and we will see you all next week. Bye, guys.